Anybody that wants to jump in, please go ahead.
DePauw recently put together a film studies minor. What kinds of courses or activities do you think should be in a film studies minor?
Well, I think that hopefully they have some equipment, because even if you want to be a film critic or a scholar, it helps if you have some production, even it's a little video camera. So hopefully they have that here. Or they will think about that they don't have that.
Don't be bashful.
Spike, could you talk about some of the things you're going to be touching on tonight?
Now ask me a wide range of things. Wide range.
Such as?
Wide range.
Why do you like to speak on college campuses?
Well, number one, students in university and college campuses across America make up a large part of my audience. And I like interchanging with students. I still teach. I'm a professor at NYU. In fact, I'm the artistic director at NYU Graduate Film School. That's where I got my Master of Fine Arts in Film Production from the film school. I've been teaching there the last 6 or 7 years. Yes.
Going along with that, I know your education is very extensive, but what do you feel like your smartest move was early on to set up maybe the career you have now? What do you feel like you did as either a student or just early on in your career that really paid off?
Well, I think the key was that I decided what I want to do. So often that if you don't know what you want to do, you know, it can curtail or delay you getting focusing what you want to do. So in college, the summer between my sophomore and junior years, I decided this is what I want to do. So after that decision was made, everything I did was done to achieve the goal of becoming a filmmaker. Yes?
What would you say the least favorite film you've made is?
I love them all. I mean, they're all not success each other, but, you know, I love them all.
What about your favorite? Can't say?
Don't have one. Yes?
What was it about the material in 25th Hour that attracted you?
Well, I like the script. In fact, I didn't even know it was a novel until I read the script. And David Benioff, who wrote the novel and adapted the screenplay, he's a very fine writer. I like the dialogue, also like the setup of this young man, young drug dealer, who was going away for 7 years and has 24 hours to try to make amends.
When did you first approach him on that project? I assume it was pre-9/11.
Yeah, the script was sent to me.
Right. And yet you managed to work in a very evocative post-9/11 feel to that film. Can you talk about that process a little?
It was very easy, you know. I'm a New Yorker, and New York changed, the world changed, and I did not want to do what a lot of other filmmakers and studios had done. I mean, they do what they have to do, but I felt that I had to incorporate this change in New York City. So for me, it wasn't a big decision. The bigger decision was how to seamlessly incorporate, you know, that post 9/11 New York City, so it wasn't so it didn't look like it was an appendage.
Do you think that Hollywood has, for the most part, kind of shrugged off 9/11? I mean, a lot of films we read in the days after the attacks were redone so that the buildings were taken out. And what's your take on how Hollywood has responded since the events of almost 2 years ago now?
Well, they feel, I think, number one, that there was a self-imposed moratorium, at least a year. But we're definitely going to see films, Bruckheimer films, about the stuff. But they were worried. They did not know how American audiences would react, and if they didn't know how American audiences would react, there was a there would be a chance that they would act negatively and that would reflect on the box office. So they were not going to take that chance to affect the bottom line.
Do you feel there's any more responsibility when you direct something that somebody else wrote as opposed to something that you wrote and developed, or do you? Or is
No, I don't have different criteria for stuff that I wrote and stuff I didn't write.
What's the key thing that draws you to a project?
The story. It has to be a story that I feel compelled to, spend a year of my life on. So it has to be a compelling story to me.
Once you've got that story, how do you go about, everyone says you don't beat around the bush about anything, especially racial issues, excuse me. How do you take that story? What steps do you take to ensure that, that raw human emotion is still there?
Well, number one, I'd have, whether I wrote it or not, I try to have a very good script, and also I have final cut, so, it stays the way I want it to stay.
I kind of heard the story about you kind of throwing The Color Purple to Steven Spielberg because you know he can get that made at that time. Do you think
I did what?
What kind of suggested to Steven Spielberg?
To do what?
The Color Purple?
No.
No? Do you think,
No. It was Quincy Jones
okay.
who suggested.
But do you think you could get that movie made today as opposed to when you first started out? It would be easier for you to get that film, or a film of that type made and get the finances and stuff?
The Color Purple?
Or a film of 100% black cast with that type of money that's going to be needed to make it? Are you finding it easier to get money to make your films?
Well, you're really asking two questions. I don't know about The Color Purple, but it's hard to get films made nowadays, and it's not just a question of whether it's all African American. For the most part, the films are making sequels or films based in comic books or old TV shows and stuff like that. So you try to do something that doesn't fall within that stuff. It becomes very difficult, especially when you don't have a big star attached. Yes.
You've had the opportunity to work in other forms of media, music videos and television commercials, primarily earlier in your career, the Public Enemy video and some of the Nike commercials. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between that and the art of filmmaking, maybe with an eye toward the commercial aspects of actually selling something?
For me, it's not really a difference because I never wanted to put constraints on myself, so I see it all as cinema. Whether I've done 2 documentaries, 4 Little Girls and Jim Brown All-American. I've done music videos, commercials, short films. So it's all an umbrella of filmmaking for me.
You never see yourself making any certain concessions toward a product or marketing aspects with music videos?
Well, it's not a concession. You have to realize going in that it's a different animal. When I do a feature film, I have final cut. When I do music video, I'm working for the record company and the artist. And I have an advertised agency. You have to realize, I'm working for, you get employed by the client. So you understand that going in.
You mentioned a moment ago about the sequels and the comic books being turned into movies, and that seems to be a growing trend in Hollywood, is kind of almost pre-marketed movies, movies in a bag, if you will. Is it becoming more difficult to become visible in that environment? I mean, distribution's obviously always an issue, and money's always an issue.
Well, it's as you say, not only is it hard to get those films, films aren't like that made, but when you do get them made, you have to compete with the films that they're in 4,000 theaters and, have the muscle of millions and millions of dollars of TV, radio, and print ads too.
Because it seems today the perception is, the weekend box office, and a movie is a success, and you wouldn't agree with this, and I don't think I would agree with this, but in the public's mind, a movie is successful because it was #1 at the box office or #2 at the box office. And there was a time in Hollywood, it seems, where, obviously you wanted to make money with your movies, but there was more of a long-term focus on the product and products of bad.
Well, there's a simple reason for that. Before the time you talk about, there was no such thing as a blockbuster. It was really Jaws that really brought about the world of blockbuster, where you made huge amounts of money in the opening weekend, and audiences weren't aware of the grosses of films. Now, every newspaper in America on Monday prints the top 10 grossing films of the past weekend. So the audience is much more aware of how much everybody's getting, how much the films cost, how much they've made, and sometimes I think they even think that's more important than whether the film is good or not. So I think all that stuff's really been to the detriment of the movie-going audience, I think. And so once they spend, these films cost so much money, they have to try to get the money back as soon as possible. And the way how it works is that there's a split between the studios and the exhibitors. The exhibitors are the theater owners. And the deal is set up this way: the more money they can make at the beginning of the run, their take is better. But the longer the film plays, the slide goes down in favor of the theater owners. So they want to make their money, the bulk of it up front. And it's just easy for them to put a film in 3,000 theaters, buy all the TV ads they can, and just try to get that opening gross, then taking a much slower approach. That's too much work. They rather just do it, big hits.
Right.
I know you say the story is one of the most important things to you. Have you had a project that you looked at it at first and said, I don't know, and then came back to it and done it, or do you, when you see the story, I like it, don't like it, that's the end of it?
No, for the most part, it's instincts and it's gut, and so I don't remember it's happened yet where there was something that I didn't like initially and I came back to it. That hasn't happened yet, that I can remember. Yes.
Speaking of sequels, do you ever foresee yourself, or would you like to make a sequel to any of your past films?
No sequels. Yes.
Could you speak a little bit about what I found was quite limited distribution of a Huey Newton story, which was a really powerful piece that aired on PBS, but all too briefly?
Well, that was never meant for theatrical distribution. It was always done for PBS, and we knew that going in, it was only going to be a couple of showings.
Would you like to, is that available on DVD or VHS?
Not yet, but we hope to get it out there, though.
It's a terrific piece.
Yeah, Roger Smith did a great job playing Huey P. Newton. Yes.
Is there anybody out there that you just would really love to work with as far as a performer, any kind of artist or writer in particular?
Oh, there are a ton of people. I mean, the talent's out there, but you have to realize is that just because someone's talented doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be right for that particular role. So you just have to be patient and wait. Like Edward Norton and I, we've been talking for a long time working together, but nothing that come. We didn't want to force anything. So, and when it was right, it happened with 25th Hour.
Yeah, I saw you on Charlie Rose with him, and it seemed like it was a mutual respect and love for each other's work. How did that come about? I mean, obviously he was very excited to be working with you, and you seem to enjoy working with him. Do you know that going in, or is it another instinct thing?
No, we had talked, in the past, we both have admired each other's work, so we both expressed the interest in working with each other. And like I said before, but we weren't going to force it, and we just were patient, and we got together on 25th Hour. And we hope to work together many more projects. We don't have anything, in the works now, but we hope it will happen.
What do you have in the works?
A lot of stuff. I don't really like to talk about things before they materialize. I think it's a jinx.
Kind of like Reggie?
No, Reggie Jackson doesn't think that way at all. Yes.
How much does your upbringing and spirituality play in the things that you do in terms of your business and decision making and those types of things?
I think a lot. But I think that you ask, I think that everyone, whether they're a filmmaker, whatever they do, is for the most part, is a product of their upbringing. Where they were raised, their environment, their parents, the schools they went to, the people they were surrounded with. So for me, I was surrounded with very positive people, friends and family, and people who did not discourage me when I declared I wanted to be a filmmaker, which was crazy at the time because there's only one African-American filmmaker working at that time, and that was Michael Schultz. So it was a very different environment than it is today. Back then it was just Michael Schultz directing, it was Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, and that was it. Yes, sir.
Some critics have proposed that we have entered into sort of a careful era in filmmaking, self-censorship as opposed to corporate censorship. Do you think that that's true, and do you think that it affects your work at all in how you react?
Can you explain self-centered censorship?
Self-censored, censoring yourself without any particular governmental agency stepping in, or even a corporation or studio stepping in and saying, well, we can't do this. That this is an era of filmmakers being careful and, say, walking on eggshells in their work.
I always have problems when people make blanket statements like that, I think Michael Moore's example to knock down that thesis, with his great film, Bowling for Columbine, and also look what he did at Academy Awards, whether you thought he should be booed or not, it still took some guts to get up there and say what he said, in front of millions of people watching on television all over the world. So I don't know else how to answer that question.
What is your take on the state of the world right now in terms of just people's attitudes, and obviously New York being the center of what happened a year and a half ago? I'm sure they're...
Well, I think that, it's chaos now. That's just one simple word. Yes.
That's the last movie you saw in theaters, so what did you think of it?
Better not say, because it wasn't that good. Yes.
Kind of on the same topic, and back to Edward Norton. A couple of years back, we did a movie called American History X. What did you think of that?
I thought he gave a great performance, in that film.
What about the tone and theme of the movie? Did you agree with how race was presented in that movie?
Not 100%, but, there are some things that were very, effective. But him playing basketball and doing these flying dunks, so you could tell he was leaping off a trampoline, and this thing where he could go up to a black person on Venice Beach basketball and say, if I beat you, black people can't play anymore. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, what black person can say, he's going to speak for all of the people who play there? He was going to get on the internet or get on a drum and say, I lost. We can't come back to Venice Beach to play. That was crazy. Yes.
A lot of critics have been, and I think deservedly so, praising your work, particularly with your actors in this last film, 25th Hour. Can you talk a little bit about how you go about working with actors like Edward Norton and others?
You want to cast the best people possible. And when you have a script like we had, you're able to get a cast like besides Edward Norton, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Barry Pepper, Brian Cox, Rosario Dawson, Anna Paquin, Tony Siragusa, who was very good, who never acted before. So that makes it very easy when you get a cast like that.
I saw that the 25th Hour DVD comes out later this month, and there's a director's commentary on it.
Mm-hmm.
Has the emergence of DVD affected your work in any way in terms of maybe things you save, things you might try to do post-production? Has it affected the way you enjoy movies yourself?
Well, it's made it much more enjoyable because I mean, you have a good system at home, and you know it's much better than watching on VHS with the 5.1 sound and all that stuff, and also the features that you can get on DVD, and a lot of stuff is very helpful, even for me as a filmmaker, to learn how they, you know, how they did stuff, and hear people describe their work. And also on this one in 25th Hour, David Benioff also does a commentary too. He's a screenwriter on this.
Are there, I'm sorry, are there films that you go back to every once in a while? I mean, films that you revisit to kind of get inspiration, or just things that you enjoy, whether they're your own or other people's?
Yeah, but it's a lot of work. But I don't really go back to. I don't have to be reinvigorated by going back to look at stuff. I love cinema, so it's always gonna, you know, it's always gonna be there.
Kind of on the same topic as DVDs, and what do you think of the emergence of kind of digital media and the way that people, for instance, like George Lucas, are shooting now completely digital, and theaters are they're saying maybe eventually going to go strictly digital. Are you for that, or do you lean more toward the traditional side, or?
No, there's room for both. But I don't agree with. What I will never do is just have actors on a green
Screen.
That's why the acting's so bad in those films. You know, there's nobody to react to. There's wooden. Yes.
Speaking of actors, do you pride yourself at all on like launching careers? Like, I mean, wasn't Rosie Perez, wasn't that her debut film, and Do the Right Thing, and like Halle Berry and Jungle Fever and stuff?
Yeah, we're very proud of that we've been able to get lucky and be in a position to give some young talented people their first shot. And then it's rewarding to see them, you know, blow up. Yes.
Yeah, I got my journalism degree from here back in the day, and I remember sitting here thinking about having to fight for creative control of the television show that I worked on. How important is
In school?
Yeah, in school.
Fight with who? The faculty?
Faculty member about they basically.
How long ago was this?
This was like '97. It was a faculty member and also a student. We have a show here called The Underground. It's the longest running show here. And the fight was we had a student producer that wanted us to wear afros and talk more black on our television program. So my question to you is, how important is having that creative control and emphasizing that you have final cut? What was that process like from the work that you had to do to get She's Got to Have It out to now? Describe what that process is like of being in control of your own image, and how important blacks in the media having that final cut, having that final say-so as editors, and saying, this is how I want my image presented. How important is that to the integrity of the work?
Well, it's very important, but final cut is something that, you know, very few directors have, regardless, black or white. And the way I was able to do it, because I had the precedent of having final cut on She's Gonna Have It, which was done outside the Hollywood system. So after the success of She's Gonna Have It, I was in a position where if the studios want to work with me, they say, this is something that I need. And since my films historically have not cost that much, they're willing to bite, you know, to swallow the final cut thing, because the films didn't cost that much. Now, if the films have been cost a whole lot more, I don't think they would concede the final cut. So I was very happy. I'm very lucky to have that from the beginning, because it's something that once you have, you never want to give that up. You know, there's been just too many times where people have wanted to change stuff and just really distort the meaning and the value of it, and you know, I wasn't going to do it.
Also, my second question goes back to your Michigan State speech when it was coming upon the Oscars, and you said that you didn't think that Denzel and Halle winning would change too much. And a year later, you know, I remember a lot of articles that Savoy and different magazines wrote about that was supposed to just open things up for black actors and actresses. What do you think post Halle and Denzel? You know, things are pretty much the same. What's your commentary on that?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same. I think that no one has a crystal ball. So anyone to write that because of the wins of Halle and Denzel was very historic, but how could one say automatically that this changed the landscape? First of all, you have to wait probably 5, 10 years to see what happened. But as far as first year, you know, Queen Latifah got one, but I don't think that the day after Halle and Denzel won, that the powers that be looked at African Americans differently. You know, it's still the same, and there was not a rise in employment of African Americans, and you know, in top positions, in the gatekeeper positions. You know, so that's where the real change has to take place, in those positions. And that's going to have a lot more effect than someone winning an Academy Award, I feel. Yes?
You have a famous shot in a lot of your films where the person is sort of standing still and the scenery moves around. What is the origination and or significance of that shot?
Well, we first started that in Mo Better Blues, and Ernest Dickerson was my cinematographer. Ernest and I went to NYU together. He shot all my films there. Then from She's Gonna Have It to Malcolm X, where after Malcolm X he went on to direct Juice with Tupac. But the first, I said before, Mo Better Blues is the first time we tried it, and I keep forgetting to ask Ernest, you know, how did we decide to do that? I mean, that shot's been done before, but we didn't make it up. But I keep forgetting to ask Ernest, you know, why we decided to do it that day, because my memory's bad, and he would remember. But as we've done it more, we try to, before we're just doing it to do it, but now we try to, you know, make sure that it goes with the storytelling. An example in Malcolm X, where he used it, and doing the research and talking to Malcolm's widow, the late Dr. Betty Shabazz, she felt that he knew he was going to be assassinated that day at Audubon Ballroom. So we felt that shot would reflect his state of mind as he's on his way to Audubon Ballroom. You know, that whole montage where we have a Sam Cooke song, A Change Is Gonna Come. Another example in the most recent work, 25th Hour, we did it where Anna Paquin's character has just drank half a bottle of champagne and dropped some E. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, when he's just gone way beyond the line and has kissed his high school student in the bathroom. And so we felt again that shot would help reflect, you know, his state of torment right there, and the way Philip's such a great actor. I mean, when he looks in the camera, it's like, oh man, what have I done? You see that right away.
Can you talk a little bit about the monologue that takes place in 25th Hour, in terms of where that was as far as the screenplay goes, and then how you took it on the day of the set, and how you conceived that wonderful monologue where he's talking to himself in the mirror?
When I read the script, that wasn't in it. And then I went back to the novel, it was in there. So I asked David, how come it wasn't in it? I said, listen, we need to put this back in. And so we put it back in, and then we just added a couple things that made it more topical. And we shot it. Disney did not want that They didn't want that at all, but we said we're doing it.
It's a powerful piece.
We had done something similar to that in Do the Right Thing. But this was it's a bigger version of that and covered more people.
And there's a sort of love-hate thing going on there too. I mean, he's spewing all this hatred. At the same time, he knows he's going to be yearning for his city and his life.
True.
Do you have a question? Yeah, please.
My dad graduated from Morehouse in '71. We were having a conversation recently about leadership at Morehouse because he remembers the time when Sam Jackson took over the administration building with some more students. And I was wondering describe the process or your feelings of Morehouse objecting to how they felt you were going to depict black college life in school. Because that's one of my favorites of yours because of you always show black life in a very monolithic way. And talk about their process of Morehouse,
Monolithic? I hope not.
Well, not a monolithic, I'm sorry, in a non-monolithic.
Oh, okay.
You show the diversity, I apologize.
Uh-huh.
You show the diversity. So talk about, the process of making school days and the thing with Morehouse, and then worried about how you was going to present black image.
Well, we weren't really worried about how we could present it because we felt we were telling the truth. I mean, I went to Morehouse for 4 years, so there's nothing in the film that was in there that was made up. I really just jam-packed my 4 years there at the homecoming weekend. And 2 weeks into the shoot, Morehouse decided that they didn't want us to shoot there anymore. Spelman never allowed us on the campus, so we really shot most of the film at Morris Brown and Clark College, which was now Clark AU. And it basically came down to the president at the time, Hugh Gloucester, who felt that this film would, denigrate higher black education. But in fact, the enrollment at historically black institutions went way up after, the film came out. Probably because of the butt, and for like 2 or 3 years after that, I wasn't even allowed to, to come on campus. But there was a new president and stuff like that, so we're cool now.
Your contribution is widely seen as very important, not just as a black filmmaker, but as a filmmaker bringing something new to the table. Do you have any consciousness of that, or are you just doing your work and maybe later on you can sit back and say, well, maybe I did contribute?
No, I'm aware of it because I see a lot of people who worked, who were PAs for me, directing films now, so I'm aware of it.
And your awareness is, yeah, I did okay. I'm doing okay, or?
Well, I'm doing what I had to do, I felt, to not just, I try to bring as many people along with me, or get an opportunity to do it, to show what they could do.
And then when you see those PAs directing and stuff now, is it that proud papa feeling?
No, I'm just happy for them,
What is your advice to young filmmakers? We talked earlier about the equipment you need, obviously, to have a film studies program, but if somebody was 18, 19 years old and had the bug, what are the things they really need to focus on?
Writing. Yes.
Do you encourage film school for aspiring filmmakers?
No,
No?
because there's no one route. And, I say this in my class all the time, there's no one way to do anything. So, it might be good for me, might not be good for you, but that does not mean that the way your route is not of that value.
In your teaching, do you talk primarily about production issues, or do you also talk, as you're talking here now, about the politics or the political economy of who owns these studios?
No, we talk about everything because it's important that one of the reasons why I wanted to teach is because students are at a disadvantage when they're being taught something by instructors or teachers who only or teaching from theory. It's very important that film students be taught by people who've made a film, by someone who's written a script, who's written a TV show, who has sat in a room with executives. You know, because other than that, you know, they're just, it's theory. Not to say you can't learn from them, but I think it's a great value, and students understand this when they have a teacher who's a film in a theater now, you know, is making films. And it's not just here because whether talent or luck, they're here because they got to eat. And, you know, the career didn't work out, so well, I'll just go teach, you know.
I have time for 2 more questions.
Yes.
I was just wondering, when you look back on your career, what would you say, can you look at something and say, you know, that was a really big challenge at that point in time, something that you really had to work hard to overcome?
Well, yes, that's very easy to do. She's got to have it. You know, that was the first film, and a normal struggle to get that film made, to get the money. You know, we had no name, nobody knew who we were. And then another thing, Malcolm X, you know, with Denzel and I were under tremendous pressure, you know, to make that film a success.
Yes.
Switching gears, is this your first visit to Indiana?
Indiana, I've been here before.
Southern Indiana. I just wondered what your reaction was of DePauw as a campus, as a student.
I mean, I just got here, so I really try to refrain from speaking about schools, cities, or countries before, you know, I haven't been here 3 hours yet, so pretty campus, I'll say that. Nice weather today.
Welcome, Spike.
Glad to be here, but
It's great to have you here.
thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and the lecture's at 7:30 tonight. We'll see you there.